All right, welcome back to our 5-minute with Jesus challenge. In the last video, I challenged you to spend 5 minutes every day with Jesus, 5 minutes a day, in prayer, in Bible study. So for the last 15 videos, we talked about Bible study. We gave you 3 keys to good Bible study: observation, interpretation, application. If you missed those videos, go back, check out some of those previous 15 episodes. Now for the next few episodes, I want to talk about prayer. And if only there was a place in the Bible where Jesus gave us ideas about how to pray, if there was only a time where the disciples went to Jesus and said, "Oh, teach us how to pray, Lord." And there is that time, the Lord's Prayer, where Jesus gave us the model prayer. He gave us an example of how to pray. So let's look at that. So Jesus gave us the model prayer. We call it the Lord's Prayer, but it is a model. Okay, some people memorize this prayer and they quote it to God as a prayer, as if this is how we should pray. We should just follow this exact word for word kind of formula for praying. I don't think that's exactly what Jesus had in mind when he gave us the Lord's Prayer. I think he gave it to us as a model. Like, here is the pattern for how to pray. Okay, and so there's basically 4 elements in the Lord's Prayer that we're going to look at today. Now, there's lots of different people that have broken down the Lord's Prayer. Obviously, it's the most famous prayer in the Bible, so a lot of scholars have looked at it. A lot of books have been written about it, so I'm not claiming to have anything new. In fact, the paradigm I'm going to show you today comes from Daniel Henderson. It's called the 4-4 pattern of prayer, just modeled after the Lord's Prayer. Navigators have their own version that's very similar to this, so this isn't anything you've never heard of before. But today we're going to look at the first of these 4 elements of good prayer. Okay, just like there are 3 steps, 3 keys to good Bible study, there are 4 elements in the Lord's Prayer for us to have a well-rounded, solid prayer life. Okay, so we're going to look at these 4 elements of good prayer. And the first one is upward. Okay, so in the Lord's Prayer, it can be broken down into 4 basic categories. The first thing he says is, the disciples come to him and say, "Teach us how to pray." And he said, when you pray, say, and he said, here's the model for how to pray: "Our Father, hallowed be thy name, your kingdom come." Okay, so that's the first type of element of prayer that Jesus mentions, is this upward reverence, right? He says, "Our Father, your kingdom come, let your name be hallowed." Okay, so he's praising God. So that's how we start prayer, is we start with praising God. We start with talking about how amazing he is. Okay, and there's lots of different things you could talk about. Man, we could praise God all day long for all the different things that he's done for us, right? We could talk about his character. We could talk about an attitude of gratitude for the things that he has done for us and just say thank you and just start listing off blessings. We can talk about his faithfulness. We can talk about all sorts of things. And so this is actually, whenever I pray, it's my favorite part of prayer, is we can spend a lot of time on this upward reverence part. So that's our first element to any good prayer, is we first start talking about how wonderful God is, and we just spend some time worshiping him. So if we're going to spend our 5 minutes with Jesus, let's start there and say, "Jesus, you are amazing. God, you are wonderful. Spirit, I want to thank you for what you're doing in my life." We start there with an attitude of upward reverence. Okay, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done." You know, we talk about how we want your will to be done in my life, how wonderful you are, and I want to submit my life to you and who you are. So that's the first step to any good prayer. Upward reverence. Talk about just some time of worship, praising God for who he is. That's where we begin.